the entire stock market is crashing, and it's all because of the booming job market over the last few months. And it's leaving a lot of people confused, including the President Donald Trump, stating with a great jobs report like just announced, stocks should go up, not down. However, what a lot of people, including the president, fails to understand is that it's not about what's happening now, it's about the path of interest rates. Now, if you look back at last year, the labor market was doing so poorly. That gave an incentive to cut interest rates. Inflation was trickling down, all while the job market was also doing really bad. So it gave two incentives to cut interest rates. One, for interest rates to save the job market, and it'll make it easier for them to want to cut interest rates. And inflation was also trickling down, so it gave a good incentive to cut more in the future. However, now it's inverse. Because of this war in Iran, it's created so much inflation over the last few months. Now it's as high as 3.8 on the CPI report that was given last month. And it's not letting up. Gas has not come down. In fact, it's going up and it's staying elevated. And the job market is no longer needing to be saved because it's booming. So the only incentive for them to cut interest rates was to save the job market. However, now, job market's doing great. According to these numbers, it's doing great. The US economy adds 172,000 jobs in May, crushing the expectations of 85,000. And the April's job numbers was also revised up by 64,000 jobs. This marks the second strongest US jobs report in over a year. So think about it. If the labor market, also known as the job market, no longer needs to be saved by the Federal Reserve cutting interest rates, all while inflation has been increasing, what needs to be done? Well, number one, if you cut interest rates, it's inflationary. Cutting interest rates creates inflation over time because everybody has more money to borrow and then everybody has more money to spend. So if you look at the path of interest rates, it's looking like they need to actually increase interest rates. And that's exactly what's going on. The stock market is pricing in increasing interest rates over the next few months. Now, it's not going to happen this month. They're going to most likely keep interest rates unchanged. And in fact, there's a 96% chance that that'll happen. However, if you look at the expectations for the July meeting, there's a 12% chance of them increasing interest rates and an 84% chance of them leaving them as is. However, if you look at the September meeting, it's up to almost 40% chance of them increasing interest rates and only a 58% chance of them leaving them unchanged. And then it gets worse with time. In the October meeting, it's up to a 50% chance of them increasing interest rates and only a 46% chance of leaving them unchanged. So if you keep looking at the distance, if you keep looking ahead, they're definitely not going to cut interest rates anytime soon. And the market's pricing that in. It's crashing because of that. And what happened a few years ago in a similar scenario, this is back in 2021, 22, and 23. Do you remember when the stock market was crashing and inflation was also increasing and the job market was also kind of going strong? The similar scenario happened and the stock market plummeted. And I'm not saying that's going to happen the same way, but one thing that needs to be said is that Donald Trump knows how to talk the market up. We clearly seen that over the last few months with this whole war with Iran. Number one, the Strait of Hormuz has been closed since March. Every time that president says that they're working on a deal with Iran, an hour later, Iran comes out and says, oh, none of that's true. And then Trump comes out saying that it is true. In fact, we're getting close to a deal. That's happening every week for the past 8 weeks. The market does not care what Iran says and what's really going on. They care with what the president is saying. And then a week goes on and the stock market's going all-time high after all-time high. I do wonder when the market will actually react to the real news as to what's going on. We're still in this war. Oil is still elevated. The Strait of Hormuz is still closed. And it's been closed for such a long time that it's increasing oil and gas throughout the entire world. If you look at the price of oil, it's been elevated since March and stayed elevated since March. So what do you think is going to happen to inflation? It's going to create more and more inflation. So as I mentioned before, inflation is elevated, job market is increasing, so they're not going to be cutting interest rates anytime soon. They're saying for over a year. I mean, how much can the president talk up the stock market? I guess we'll see.